The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome to Gate City Chronicles. I'm Kevin Avard, your host, and today we have a guest who's appeared on our show in the past, Kramer Greenfield.
Yes.
Welcome back.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. Well, you're an author and a writer, and you're part of some book writers clubs. Is it?
Yes, we have a writers club in Derry, New Hampshire, that we've had for 10 years. A friend of mine and I had started 10 years ago, and we're still going strong. Mm-hmm. And we also, we have written some articles for the newspaper with this club. But this book that I've written is about me growing up in the projects.
Yeah, it's called One Duck Missing.
Yes.
By Kramer Greenfield.
Yes.
Illustrated by Calpart?
Yes, that's the illustrator. I don't illustrate, so we hired an illustrator to take care of. I told them what we looked like approximately. Mm-hmm. So
which one are you?
Well, my girlfriend was the redhead with freckles. She was the Irish one. Uh-huh. And the blonde, that's sort of like me, yeah.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah, a reasonable facsimile, you know.
A reasonable facsimile.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you were telling me that, you know, you're writing this book, but this really is kind of a glimpse back into history a little bit. And you were mentioning something that, you know, you and your girlfriend there were young, you were in the projects. Yeah. And, you know, mom be sleeping, you'd get up and you'd dress yourself and you'd find some things to do. Tell me a little bit about the history with the projects. What do you were talking about the projects themselves. Well,
my father was a World War II veteran. So the guys coming out of the service, they needed housing for them. And mostly they were firemen, policemen, just guys that needed a place for their families, World War II veterans. And we moved in and everything was new and it was very nice, not like projects like you would think of now. And there was always kids to play with, a lot of immigrants, a lot of ethnic people.
Multicultural. Completely.
Yes, and we all got along so great. And it was always fun because there was a lot of kids to play with. Maura lived, my girlfriend Maura, that's in that book, I have to preface that, the redhead. She lived 2 doors down from me, and I was just a little kid, about 2.5, 3, and my mother was a chubby woman, so she didn't want to chase after me. She used to keep me in a playpen, and Maura would come over and rattle the playpen and tell my mother she wanted her to take me out of the playpen so I could play with her. And my mother would tell her to go away, and she would continue to do this. So eventually I did come out of the cage and play with her. And she continuously came back and knocked on the door.
How many years did you live there?
I lived in the project till I was 16. And we never knocked on the door. We yelled, hi-yo. So she'd say, hi-yo, Arlene. And I would say, hi-yo, Maura. This is what we did. But Maura would come so early in the morning, my mother would say, don't yell. So she'd throw pebbles at my window at about 6 o'clock in the morning. I'd hear the pebbles, and I'd jump into shorts and a top or whatever I could grab that was clean and run outside to meet her, barefooted or whatever.
Where was this?
This was in Revere, Massachusetts. And we would
go...
So
obviously it was the summertime.
It was the summertime most times, yeah. And she was my best friend. And when you had a best friend those days, they went every place with you. They were like your sister. They were. And even though we had no money, nothing, we found things to do.
Right. You didn't have cell phones or
iPads.
We
had nothing. We had nothing. We got $25 a week for allowance, $25, and we would spend it the day we got it. You know,
Sure.
there was a quarter.
You know, a quarter bought you a pack of cigarettes. Well, just saying. I remember when they
This
were a
was
pack. Or you could buy
50s,
Twinkies.
late 50s, early 60s.
Right.
We could, you know, we could do a lot. We could do a lot with with the quarter. But what we wanted to do on for this in this book, what we wanted to do, it had rained, and we wanted to write on the sidewalk, which we love to do with chalk. If you could write on the sidewalk, you could make a hopscotch, which we could play 122 games with.
I think I saw a picture of a hopscotch in here.
Yes. It was great fun. We could write our names. We could do a lot with a piece of chalk. And we discovered that these little lawn ducks that the neighbors had were made of chalk. That was the only thing that was made of chalk. We tried the pink flamingos, and they didn't write anything. We tried all the little gnomes and
We
stuff.
used to use rocks.
Nope, the rocks, no. The best thing was those little lawn ducks. So
And
once
they were
in a
made of chalk.
while,
That's
they were made
funny.
of chalk. So once in a while, we would uncover one in the trash that was broken, and we would write with it. So we decided to look around, and we couldn't. That particular day, there was none to be had. So the other side of the projects, they would have the mother duck, the father duck, and the 3 little ducks. That was a wealthy family because they had the whole family, you know. Usually you had 1 duck and maybe 1 baby duck, but 3 ducks, that was a big deal. So Maura and I decided.
Is the equivalent 3 flamingos if you're in a French Quarter? That's funny. Right.
So we decided they wouldn't miss 1 lousy little duck, right? There was a neighbor that had 3 ducks, but it was too close to home. Besides, he loved those little things. He was a gardener going to pat the head, and he named them Mo, Larry, and Curly because he was a Three Stooges fan.
Right.
We knew he would miss one of his ducks. There was no way. And I said, Maura, he's too close. You know, he would. So we decided that we'd go to the other neighborhoods and scout around. And we found a family that had 3 of those little ducks, and we wanted one of those ducks to write on the sidewalk. But I reminded her that, you know, you can't steal. Maura said we would borrow it. I'm thinking, borrow? I don't know about borrow, but she said, yeah, we'd borrow it. So we devised a scheme where I would distract the neighbors, and she would run in the back where the ducks, in the front where the ducks were, and she would take the duck, put it under her coat, and run away. But we'd have to do this like about twilight time, because during the day, at bright daylight, somebody would see her. So one night, it was about supper time. It was a little late. We had supper. It was later than supper time, and I borrowed my brother's flashlight, because brothers always had flashlights and jackknives and all stuff like that. And although it was summer, Maura put her little parka on, one of those little jackets, and it was big enough to accommodate a duck, a small duck. And all the mothers were sitting out front in their lounge chairs with the little lights. You know, they have those little candles to keep away the bugs. And I went down there and I looked, and all the mothers were kibitzing and smoking. You know, those days they smoked up a storm. And kids were sitting around, and I looked and I said, Maura, coast is clear, you know, like we were in the movies. And she said, okay. So I said, you grab the duck and I'll meet you back at the place, you know. So she put the duck under her coat, and she ran back to the stoop we had in front of the
I see the picture of the duck
project.
behind the
There's
coat.
a stoop. And when she was illustrating this book, she said to me, well, I'll make you a stoop. So she made me steps with flowers and all this. I said, this was the project. There was no flowers. There was nothing. It was a plain stoop. There was a gray block where we sat. So she had to change all this, and we wrote on the pillars and everything on.
So you before you go any further, you know, you were also talking a little bit before we got on camera. I mean, you checked the garbages. Now you had dry garbage and you had wet garbage. I've never heard of this before in my life.
In the projects, we separated the garbage. The dry garbage went in barrels. Like now, the wet garbage, there was a cylinder that was implanted in the ground with a cover and a pedal.
Is that where you put the food or something?
Yeah, leftover food, anything perishable like that. You put your foot on the pedal, and the cover would open, and the stench could knock you over. It could stunt your growth. I mean, it was horrible. And that's where you put the wet garbage. And how you collected the wet garbage is you had this plastic triangle in the sink. And as the meal was going on, you threw whatever rinds and potato peelings in there. And one of the kids, there was 5 kids in my family, one of the kids would be elected to throw the garbage away. Nobody wanted that job. Nobody.
Yeah.
So we took turns. And we'd go out there and we'd
Is that
hold
something
our
they would bring
nose.
to the pig farm or something?
No. We hold our nose. I don't know what they did with it, but
Right
let me
away.
tell you.
Yeah, it stunk.
It was
So
awful.
when you were hunting for your ducks, you obviously didn't
We
go into the
never
wet part.
went. Mara and I avoided that wet garbage like the plague. We never even went around back. My brother was the one that hosed the whole area down after they collected it twice a week.
Have you showed this book to Mara?
What?
Is Mara still?
Oh, yes. Mara's still my best friend.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She gets a kick out of it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because as you go through, you see this little girl with a little duck, and you don't know if it's a real duck or if it's a fake duck, but it's a piece of chalk so that you could play hopscotch.
Well, she said, I said, there is a commandment, thou shalt not steal.
Mm-hmm.
She said, well, what about thou shalt never write on the sidewalks again? We really need to write on the sidewalks. We really need it because we had nothing else to do. And the biggest thing Mara would say was, I'm bored. When Mara said she was bored, you knew there was going to be trouble coming.
Right.
Because she was going to get into something.
Did she ever go to prison?
No, I thought maybe one day I'd have to bail her out, but no, she was okay.
She's
Although
the
one
red-headed
time
freckled
she
girl,
came
so-
very close. One time, I'll tell you this story. She used to go to confession every Saturday, and she'd drag me, even though I was Jewish. I'd sit in back of the church very quietly, so nobody would notice. She'd put up a bush gun in my head, and I would sit quietly. Well, one week we went, and we had bought these fizzies, Fizzies, if you don't know what it is, if you drop them in water, they turn into a soft drink and you drink it. We used to put them on our tongue and it would turn our tongue colors. Well, we were on our way to the church on a Saturday, and she said she would hold the fizzies, even though I paid for them, which is typical of Mara. And we got through the door, and she went into confessional with the priest. And apparently she didn't like what the priest said to her. Next thing I knew, the fizzies were in the holy water. The holy water was fizzing. The nuns in the front were folding up like an accordion. They were passing out.
It's a sign.
The priest came running. You know how they had the robes, and he pulled up his robes, and I know he didn't have pants on under there. He had socks and bare legs, and he was running after us. And Mara was running like crazy down Broadway. I was scared to death, so I ran outside and hid behind this gate. And
It's the Jewish girl.
When I finally, I thought I would really enjoy. So when I finally got out there, she's on the other end of Broadway, and she's waving to me. Here I am, she says. I knew I could outrun that priest. And I went up to her and I said, Mara, what do you mean? He knows where you live.
What's the next confession going to be like?
He knows where you live. You go to confession every Saturday. Your parents go to church every Sunday. He knows who you are. Oh, she said, that's right. Really didn't occur to her. She was so in the moment, That Mara was in the moment.
What happened?
Mara was
Did she get in trouble with that? With the mom?
Well, it was bad enough when her mother made her keep this box, and she was supposed to put nickels in there for church, and she decided one day she had sugar deprivation, and she used all her money for penny candy, and she got beat up for that. But this was the end of the line for her mother. She said, "That's it, you're grounded."
Did Mara end up owning like a corporation or something?
Mara, actually, she was a little freckle-faced girl with red hair flying all over the place, and she turned out to be a real beauty. She modeled and everything. But she was always a wise guy. You never could, her mother, as much as she hit her, never could beat the wise guy out of her. Yeah. She always tried to get away with him.
And so this book is based upon your relationship with Mara?
Mara's the protagonist here. Mara is the one. If it wasn't for Mara, I probably would have been sitting in a library my whole childhood. She was the one who said, let's do this and let's do that. And she got me thrown out of practically every store on Broadway, even though I was a quiet kid. But she came and she said, oh, come on, let's do this and let's do that. And when she said it, it never seemed so terrible until we actually were into it, you know. And we would go to dancing school every Saturday. And all we needed to get into dancing school was $1. Every Saturday, this kid would lose $1. Never failed, would lose $1. And we'd have to walk all the way back down Broadway looking for her dollar, which, you know, in most cases, we didn't find it. Once in a while, we found it, not too often. But she would lose everything. She would, if there was trouble to be had, she would find it.
Is there going to be a sequel?
Freckle Cream is the next one.
Freckle Cream? Because she had freckles.
Well, she decided she didn't want them, so we had to send away to Kalamazoo, Michigan for Freckle Cream, because I saw an ad in the back of a magazine that said, magic vanishing cream, make your freckles go away. And Mara thought this was a terrific idea. The only thing is the Freckle Cream came back, it was about this big, about the size of a quarter.
I remember when I was in the orphanage, we used to, we were in little baby boys, and we'd get these comic books. And the best part of the comic books to me was the backside. And they had, of course, the X-ray vision glasses.
Send it away for things.
And, well, we couldn't. All we could do is just see it. And we had nothing. But it made your imagination just, wow, this vanishing cream, or you'd have the X-ray visions. I really wonder what Sister Brother looks like. You know, it was all that kind of stuff. It was just, our minds would go nuts.
And everything was in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And when it didn't work, Mara wanted to go to Kalamazoo, Michigan and kill everybody. And she said, I want my money back. And I said, it didn't say any, you know, I would read. She didn't read. It doesn't say any place of money back guarantee if not satisfied. Well, you should have read that, she said. You know, it was, of course, all my fault. And I want my money back.
Just getting the package.
Getting the package. And we waited for the package. But I helped her raise the money to send it away. And I said, I helped you raise the money. What do I get out of this deal? I don't even have freckles, I said.
You get to be my friend.
No, she said, she said, well, she says, I feel fleeced out of my money. She felt fleeced. I said, okay. So every day she rubbed it in. Of course, nothing happened. You know?
Snake oil, those guys have been around forever.
It cost $2.35 plus postage and handling, of course.
So there's 22 pages to this book, and it really is a history, isn't it?
There's a lot in there about the projects and how we lived, yeah.
And what will children take away from this?
Well, I think they would get a kick out of the interaction between these two girls. There's a lot, these two girls, although they're very different, they communicate well with each other, and they're funny. They're funny without trying to be funny. They like each other. You could tell they really have affection for one another, but Mara's always chasing her and always trying to beat her up because she has that kind of personality. And Arlene's the thinker, and Mara's the doer. So they make a good team, actually, yin and yang, you know?
Yeah.
And as far as the kids, it's an enjoyable story. The reason I say it's enjoyable is my grandchildren made me tell this story over and over again. And I thought, you know, what is it about this story? And I told other kids this story. And
can they relate to it?
Oh, yeah. It's only the times they may think.
Well, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
But as far as relating to taking something that they want, getting away with it, they don't get away with it in this story. They're found out, and they have to do chores, and they have to...
So there's a lesson here. Don't mess with ducks. There's a curse around ducks.
That's right. The lady whose duck that they took the duck from, she came around and she was asking if any. And my mother, who was very savvy, she said, you know, where were you and Mara the other night, and so on and so forth. And she could get it out of me all the time. I wasn't a good liar, and we wound up not only doing chores for the lady, but we had to take care of her two horrible children for one afternoon, so she went shopping. That pretty much cured us, because Mara hated kids. She hated them. She didn't want to babysit at all. So that cured us, and we swore that we weren't going to steal anymore. So that cured us for a while.
Right. On to the next adventure. Yeah. That sounds like a good cartoon, actually.
But we did actually have to.
Where did you find the illustrator?
The publisher got me the illustrator.
And how did you find the publisher?
I had actually put out a lot of inquiries and query letters and stuff, and it takes a lot of time and energy to find a publisher. They don't grow on trees. I mean, they're out there, but it's hard to find one that will work with you, that likes your stuff, that understands what you're trying to say.
You have to have definitely a mutual agreement. That they have to like you, you have to like them.
Yeah.
There's something in it for them, there's something in it for you.
Yeah, and I write humor, basically.
Being part of that club does kind of help you, though, right? I mean, as far as the Writers Club?
Not really. It's part of my resume, part of my query letter, whatever. Any type of publication that you do is helpful. I've written freelance for newspapers. I had a column of my own for a while. So all that stuff, it all rolls into a big ball of accomplishment that they look at and they say, well, it sounds like she could sell a few books. And it's funny because I went to the National Public Library and I had 22 authors there, and I thought to myself, I'm a rank amateur. I said, one woman had skulls, big skulls, and the books were pouring out of the skull's mouth because she wrote suspense. And another woman had this big stuffed snake, and out of the snake's belly came books. I said, boy, these people, they're really going crazy. They really market their stuff. I'm not that big on marketing, but I see now maybe I should. They had the front cover of their book made into a poster size and keychains and all that. Like you see people market anything else, they were marketing their books. Some of them were graphic artists, and they were doing a really good job. But wow, there was a fellow there. He illustrated books about the Wizard of Oz, and he had a vest on, and it was a yellow brick road that all went all the way all around his vest.
He's in character.
Unbelievable.
So, so you've done a lot of research in
you have to do research. Research is important. I tell the ladies in my group all the time. Research. It's easy enough to get on the computer and research these days.
I think last time you told me there were about 11, 14, something like that.
Well, there's more than that now. It's about 18.
18?
Yeah. Word gets around, and we do a lot. So they see that we do things, and they want to get into the group. I'm going to be doing a few lectures for the Senior Center about writing memoirs. A lot of people like to write. Everybody has a story.
Oh, of course. And I think there is a treasure that needs to be explored, because I had a friend, he actually moved out of Nashville, but John Prestige, he was about 81, 82, he served in the Navy, and he's written a lot of books, a lot of poems, or not poems, verses, if you will. Just a treasure. Just my elbows get hurt. They hurt from just. We did interviews with 14 World War II veterans for the paper, for the Derry News. I think it was maybe 3 years ago. And these interviews were great. These guys were very forthcoming. One guy says, I was a kid in New Hampshire. I never went any place really. I found myself in Casablanca. I mean, he's going on. And I'm thinking to myself, there's definitely stories here. And Sure.
they love sitting down telling us their story. We got great interviews, and we ran them as a series in the newspaper. So if you can write and somebody gives you a subject and you're willing to do research, then you can have a lot of fun.
You spend most of your time editing?
I edit for the group, and I do a lot of my own editing,
Yeah. Is that the hardest part of writing?
Well, you can write and write and write. Like Ernest Hemingway said, everybody can write. You just stand at the typewriter and bleed. But it's not that hard. The thing is, you can write and write, but to tighten it up and to make it into a story and whittle it down to 22 pages, whittle it down to 100 pages, whittle it down, that's a little tougher. What you have to do is a sculptor looks at a tree and he sees a figure or a piece. You have to see something. You have to see the gist of the matter, the whole tight piece, not just a whole bunch of pages. You have to be able to tell a story in such a way that people don't say, when is she going to stop? She goes on and on and on. Like some people you talk to, they go on and on and on. I have an aunt like that. Now listen, darling, and you don't want to listen after 5 minutes. But it has to be readable.
Right.
Your characters have to be the type of characters that people care about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's going to happen next? I want to see what happens next. And, you know, that's what, hopefully what you get in a book. That,
Now, how long has this been online or in the market?
this is just, this one's maybe 6 months, maybe.
6 months now, okay. And you can get it on Amazon? You can get it at the...
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, yeah.
And the name of it is One Duck Missing by Kramer Greenfield, illustrated by Calpart.
They have a lot of illustrators.
Calpart is a company?
It's a group of illustrators. This particular illustrator I liked very much. And she worked with me to try to get as close to what we were looking for as far as the characters. And we went back and forth at least a half a dozen times with these girls.
Well, just seeing two little girls sitting on, what do you want to do today? I don't know, what do you want to do today? And then
Everybody can relate to that.
Right.
I'm bored. Every kid.
Oh, dear. I can definitely relate to that. I have a couple of friends like this, Norman Briere. My gosh, some things I want to forget. Anyway.
Honestly, I mean, we would be sitting on the sidewalk and watching ants climb up a hill. You know, just watch the ants. We could spend a half an hour doing that and talking.
We had a place called Way Out in the orphanage. And Way Out, can we go to Way Out? Can we go to Way Out? Because we're stuck in a room, a small little room. And springtime would come, we'd go Way Out. And there was this building. And in the building, there were the cracks in the wall. And there were the spider webs. And you brought that to mind because we would actually grab a little ant and we would throw him into the spider web. And we'd watch. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, the spider would come down and grab it. That's entertainment.
Yeah.
It was really entertainment.
You don't need a lot to entertain a kid.
Well, it was. And then, of course, we'd go bee hunting and we'd dig a hole. I don't know. It's better than being locked up in a room and all day long. But there's lessons there. You know, you had to really hunger for life, though, after when you left that place because you want to know what's out there.
And the other thing is when you're a kid, when you connect with another kid and you go every place with them and you do things together, and everything seems better. Yeah. Because you have this other person. I got to tell Maura about that. I got to go get Maura. We got to do this. And we had a fort up in the hill. You know, we used to go up there when our mothers drove us crazy. We would go up there. And no other kids could go in there. Maura wouldn't let anybody else there. Unless they were really having a hard time. Maura would maybe let them in. And we had a box there with shiny things in it, shiny buttons or keys or anything we found that we liked, we put in there.
14 seconds left for the show, so thank you very much for coming on the show again. It's One Duck Missing, and of course we have your website up already. Thanks for coming on the show.
Okay, thank you.
Until next week, thanks for watching Gate City Chronicles. Thank you for watching Gate City Chronicles, and we want to thank our sponsor, Aardvark, the Dean of Clean. You can reach them at 603-521-7657. If you need your carpets cleaned, call Aardvarks.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.